My last pick is a movie I think I told you about recently because I saw it probably within the last like 6 months or so. It's a movie called The Woman Chaser from 1999. This is,
Oh, yeah, okay.
yeah, I think it's one that more people should really seek out because it's very, very particular and hilarious, but also kind of appealingly dark. The movie is adapted from a book by Charles Willeford, who I'm actually not familiar with really. Several of his stories have been adapted into movies. I think that movie Miami Blues is one of the more popular
Oh,
movies based on his writings.
okay. I saw
Um,
Miami Blues not too long ago, and that's actually a pretty crazy and underrated film.
yeah, The Woman Chaser goes in some pretty unexpected, crazy directions. General rundown of the plot is that it's a taking place in the 1950s. It's centered on this guy played by Patrick Warburton, the popular character actor who's been in mostly family films. Like he's like Kronk from The Emperor's New Groove, and I came across him in that movie Joe Somebody with Tim Allen. He's like the villain in that movie. Like,
Recurring guest actor on Seinfeld.
oh yeah, Seinfeld. He was like pretty popular on that. So pretty well known as playing a certain type of archetypal character of maybe being a little dim-witted uh, and direct and kind of abrasive. That's basically who he's playing in The Woman Chaser, except to a psychopathic degree.
Oh,
It's
okay.
kind of
That already sounds interesting.
yes. I feel like the movie recognizes that quality in Patrick Warburton and really digs its teeth into it in the way that like Punch Drunk Love kind of takes the Adam Sandler persona and takes it in really interesting new directions and sort of brings out the true sadness of that character, of that persona. I think the Woman Chaser looks at that persona, the movie jerk tough guy, and actually looks at it in a way that's like, this person is like a complete psychopath misogynist, and let's really like explore this character and not pull any punches. And it is just that he's a used car salesman who is basically living a pretty worked out life. He has a means of selling cars. He's good at what he does. He is basically a womanizer. He hangs out in bars and picks up kind of vulnerable women who he can sort of talk to and compliment and then sleep with and then move on to the next one. And he sort of reaches kind of an approaching middle age and has an existential crisis and thinking about how he's not going to leave anything behind after he dies. And it becomes kind of like about a male obsession of like, I need to leave my mark on this world and I need to be remembered. And the way he has a scene where he's looking for inspiration and he goes to an art museum, and while wandering through the exhibits, a fit of inspiration hits him, and he says, like, I'm going to write and direct a movie because I think I think the line is something along the lines of like, I have no artistic background or training, and I'm not particularly talented at anything. So I think making a movie makes the most sense. And so basically the movie at that point becomes him making this feature film. And you kind of expect it to go one way of like, okay, he's this, kind of awful character. It's going to go terribly wrong in all these ways. And it kind of doesn't. It's sort of, he ends up, I won't spoil it, but the movie he makes and his journey in making it is not really what you would expect with a movie like this. It takes it to a degree in showing that maybe he's not inept at making this thing happen. Maybe he's actually capable of making this thing happen and capable of making it good. But what's the danger of that? Of it being made well.
Yeah, and that guy becoming famous and powerful.
I won't tell you much more than that because I think seeing where it goes and his constant monologue there is basically a noir-esque monologue that runs through the entire film, which Patrick Warburton's voice is absolutely catered for, of just that sort of running internal monologue. Completely hilarious and totally puts you in his shoes. You just sort of get absorbed into his world and into his thinking, and it's on one hand troubling because it is somebody who has this really sort of distorted view of the world and of himself, but I think that it is done with an awareness about the character and a carefulness about how he's depicted that you don't I don't think you really ever fully get on his side about really wanting to see him succeed. I think if anything, he succeeds in spite of you wanting to see him fail in some ways. I think I'll also just kind of throw out there, if you are interested in seeing it, I mentioned his kind of misogynistic tendencies. There are some scenes that are pretty rough towards women that I think, if some of that stuff is particularly triggering for you, then I actually maybe wouldn't recommend the film, because there's actually, well, depending on which version of the movie you see, apparently there's a unedited version and an edited version. I saw the unedited version, and the unedited version there is actually physical violence towards a woman, and it's kind of rough. So that being said, anticipate that, know that. And if you are still intrigued by that kind of dark, humorous character study, then it's completely underseen and underrated, and has this kind of gem of a performance from Patrick Warburton that is sort of like the culmination of his life's career and work, and this sort of persona that he's developed in a humorous way that many movies have utilized for humorous effect. And this, I think, is the only time that you actually kind of see the depths that what he's capable of bringing to that character, and also what the implications of that kind of person are. And it's genius. I don't know exactly where you could find it. Apparently, it only had a VHS release. But I think you can track it down on certain streaming sites. And yeah, if you see it for like a few bucks to rent, then definitely take a chance on it. It's out of movies, like everything on the list, I put it at the top because like it's one of those things where after I saw them, it was like, man, I can't believe no one talks about this movie. I can't believe no one knows about this movie. This is a classic. This is great. So I wanted to end on that one for my picks.